Hello, Fight Insight fans, viewers, and listeners. I'm your co-host, Braydbunch, aka the Non-Binary Ninja, here with my dog Lexi, and also, as always, with your host Timmy B. Before we start the show, please follow, tell some friends, subscribe on whatever platform you're seeing or hearing us on right now. On today's episode, we're going to talk about all things Islam. We're going to talk about potential IV use or abuse. We're going to discuss the pound for pound ranking, who is number one, and probably a lot of other controversial stuff. But for now, Tim, hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fight Insight Podcast. Let's talk.
All right, well, our intro somewhat changed today, Braydbunch, because we were supposed to have a guest, and unfortunately they have not shown up. But we're going to move ahead so that we can get this episode in the books and release it on time as we always do. There is Lexi or Snickers.
This is Lexi.
All right, hello, Lexi. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to talk all things Islam because holy crap, we could fill a whole show just talking about Islam Makhachev.
Yes,
right? Where do you want to start first? You want to start with the IV usage, or you want to start with the fight itself, or you want to start with the pound for pound ranking?
You know what? Maybe let's start with the fight itself.
The fight itself? All right.
Yeah.
And because our guest no-showed, I have zero pictures for this. But okay, fine. You watched the fight?
Yes.
How did you score it in the moment?
All right. Rounds wise, I'm going to be honest, due to the way I know that the scoring system's set up, and it frustrates me a bit. What I would like to say is I think they should reward points for escaping from the ground or getting back up from takedowns.
Sure.
So watching it, you know what stinks is due to the takedowns, even though he didn't do so much with it.
Yeah.
I would give Islam 3 out of the 5 rounds.
Do you remember which 2 rounds you gave Volk? Obviously, fifth.
The fifth, without a doubt. It was either the second or the third. I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
But there was definitely one of them where it was much more clear. But even just so here's the truth. You can't deny the fact that he got those takedowns. And as a former wrestler, I got to say, a few of those takedowns were really nice.
Beautiful.
There was one point in particular, I'm sorry, I'm blabbering a bit, but I think, do you remember when Volk turned and was talking smack to Islam's coaches?
Yes, yeah.
Right? So I saw a lot of people sharing that, hyping up Volk at that point. But what I remember was Volk was so in their face, and then he tried to go out towards the cage and escape. But I think he was so distracted in that moment that Islam just put on it was such quick wrap up, right? So that's where I'd say people that were hating on Islam, making it sound like he got destroyed or something. It was a very even match. Now, what I will say is this, and maybe I'm jumping the gun. These were supposedly the 2 pound for pound kings.
Yeah.
Knowing, even though he lost, and I'm convinced if there was a round 6, Volk would have won. Possibly even finished him. I think Volk is still the better fighter.
Okay, hold on. We're not getting to the P4P yet.
All right, so yes.
But I like that angle. Okay, hold on. So I'm going to say for me, I scored it for Makhachev as well. I actually had it 4 rounds to 1. I know that I think it was the second round that I was close on saying Volk at the time. And I'm talking about when I'm watching it at the time.
Yes.
What am I looking at? So I saw it as 4 rounds to 1. Because remember, the judges score it after each round too. After each round. So in that split moment, you have to make your decision on that round. You can't then get to the third round and go, you know what, that second round was kind of close for Volk. Maybe I'm going to give that one to Volk. It's at the moment. So in the moments as I was scoring it, I thought, okay, it was 4-0 for Makhachev when we got to the 5th. And then it was okay, well, it's game over already anyways. And I remember hearing Volkanovski's corner, I think after the second or the third, saying you have to win every round. Meaning even they were telling him, hey, look, it is not guaranteed that you've won any of these rounds. You have to win.
Yes.
So, okay, you and I are on the same page. Makhachev won that fight. And now let's get into what you were saying. He's number 2.
See, but you know what? I'm gonna add one more thing. Yes,
Yeah.
he won that fight, but I also could have seen a draw. When we've seen some draws in the last year, this is me being biased as a wrestler. Also, this is, what part of it is judging what Volk did compared to everyone else that has versed Islam.
Yeah, of course.
Right, but you're right. So Islam won. I'm gonna shut up now.
Islam wins.
Yes.
I mean, people that were debating that, you're crazy. People that are saying that Volk won the fight, and I know you kind of just said maybe he did, but there's no freaking way. And if he won that fight, people would have gone insane saying the controversy of him being in Australia, home crown advantage, blah, blah, blah. Like, that would have been insane that he won.
I agree.
And it's crazy that people are saying that he won online. You're insane if that's what you think. So, pound for pound.
All right. So this
is Islam the pound for pound greatest fighter in the world right now?
My opinion is no, but I guess the question is, like, what really judges pound for pound?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I saw someone commenting that it's a silly thing that really can't be judged properly, and it's just something they throw out in sports to lead to debate.
Yeah.
But what I think about is, like, all right, pound for pound, if we were to take an athlete and their weight, look at their skills, right? Like, how good are they? Right? So I literally think of size and weight. A lot of people are talking about when John Jones comes back, none of this will matter if he wins because he's really a pound for pound. But looking back at Volk, he now has 2 losses. I think Islam has 1, right?
Yeah.
It was a close match, but here's the truth. He moved up in weight and he took on a much bigger opponent.
Yeah.
And he made it where that opponent did not win in the impressive ways that he did in the past.
Or that you should have.
Yes, right?
Being a guy coming up to your way. And just on the screen, I'm going to put the current rankings for the P4P as per the UFC website as of February 14th, 2023, in case you're watching this way into the future. So you have Alex Volkanovski maintaining the number 1 spot. Islam, number 2. Then you get Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, Adesanya, Alex Pereira, Aljamain Sterling, Charles Oliveira, Brandon Moreno, and John Jones. To me, this list is fucking nonsense. Like, this whole thing is stupid.
Doesn't make sense, especially knowing some of them who have fought each other too.
Well, so I don't think that if you lose a fight, that really impacts anything. I think P4P ranking, to me, in my opinion, is based on your body of work. Right. And yes, of course, you have to be winning way more than you're losing, but I don't think a loss changes anything. I also don't think it's a title that you can lose by fighting another guy, unless you're both in the same weight class permanently and normally. Like, Alex Volkanovski is a featherweight. He's not a lightweight. So when he goes up a weight class and loses, I don't know that that really deteriorates from his stock. And if anything, he lasted 5 rounds with the champ, almost won, did better than anybody else has ever done. Yes. To me, I feel like he gets even higher on the list.
I agree.
For doing what he did. Like, he proved like he's freaking crazy good.
And you know what? He made it look, he was smiling through it. He made it look easy.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Definitely more impressive. What do you think about Leon Edwards at 3?
Jesus. It's ridiculous. Okay, first of all, Islam, I don't think Islam belongs at 2. He's only beaten 2 guys in the top 10 of lightweight. He beat Arman Sarukian and Charles Oliveira.
Yes.
But he's beaten nobody else in the top 10. No Gaethje, no Chandler, no Poirier, no Fiziev, no Gamrot, right? Like, no Beneil Dariush. The big guys in that weight class, he has not even competed against. So I don't understand how you can get there. Remember, he got his title shot off beating Bobby Green.
Yes.
who, yes, is one of the greatest wrestlers, greatest fighters in the whole world, if you ask me. But he's not in the top 10. Like, so I don't know why Islam is up here. So then you get to Leon Edwards. I can't even name 3 people Leon Edwards has beaten, or 3 Leon Edwards fights that I can remember.
Yes.
Then
Yeah, he's talented, he's skilled, but does not belong up here on this list. Yeah, he may prove it,
yeah.
right?
Like, no offense, but I would say like someone, and I know this is terrible, but like someone like Donald Cerrone, or Robbie Lawler, or like any of the guys who have fought the who's who and won and done well. Why don't those guys get on the list? Like when you look at their body of work, not just current champions, like Leon Edwards is there, Alex Pereira is there, who's fought what, 3 MMA fights?
The ones who have been active, and you're right, that's exactly how I feel about Alex, right? But part of me wonders, is the ranking like, all right, Alex is now champ, he beat Israel, who's on this list, so he automatically jumps up, right? Leon, he beat Usman, he automatically jumps up, right? But then it's like, well, why didn't Islam move up?
Yeah. The dogs are angry. And then you get Aljo on the list. And a lot of people hate Aljo.
He gets so much hate. I feel bad. I hope he shuts some people up.
I do too, because I love him. But you got to remember, he didn't beat the greatest guys getting to the title. He wins the title in controversial fashion. So that fight should have no bearing.
Yep.
Then he beats, well, he doesn't even beat TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw beats himself.
Yep.
So you shouldn't win anything for that. And then, okay, fine, you had that one fight against Peter Yan that you won, which was not a slaughter.
Yes.
So, like, it seems like once you have a title belt, you get to be on this list.
Yes.
But then where's Gon? Or I guess he doesn't have the title. Maybe that's why. I don't know. It's just stupid. Moreno's fought the same guy 4 times.
I know. I'm so sick.
And he lost 2 of them, or, he lost 1 and tied 1. So, like, how is Moreno on the list? It's just stupid. If Moreno's there, Figueiredo should be there.
I agree.
Figueiredo's got a cooler haircut too, so give him some
yes.
points for that. I don't know. This whole list is nonsense, but Islam being, and then Islam's complaining a lot about being number 2. He thinks he should be number 1. He thinks, hey, if I beat the number 1 guy, I should get to be the number 1.
See, so I see it a little bit, but at the same time, I felt like the way he handled his post-fight speech, so irritating, so not needed. So yeah, I guess out of my question, who would you put in the top 5 out of these people? If you were to make a top 5 out of this list.
But I only get these people?
These people. If you had to reorder it.
Fine. Volkanovski is there. Like, John Jones is not on the list for me. He hasn't fought in a million years, and half of his fights were he was on drugs. So I can't even put him there. I guess Usman's got to be maybe number 2, maybe Adesanya.
I would put him up there because he was
Adesanya, yeah.
They had to bring Alex in because people were getting too bored with his comedy fashion of fighting.
Yeah, although his fights have been boring too, like when you look at like his finishing rate and stuff like that. So that's why Usman kind of was finishing fights. So I got to put Usman up there. Yeah. Charles Oliveira should be way higher up there. He's only lost the 1 fight, right?
Yes. And guess
so
what?
He went from like number 1 to number 8 on the list after losing 1 fight.
And you know what? See, going back, talking about Islam and some of the controversy. Let's say, so it's been rumored maybe he used an IV.
Yeah.
Right? It makes me wonder, did he use an IV when he fought Charles, right?
Yeah.
Like, how will the UFC, if this doesn't treat that stuff, right? Would someone like him move back up because he lost to a cheating fighter?
Well, and so to talk about like it's your body of work, the thing is too, you got to remember all the people that Charles Oliveira beat and beat well, right? Think about all the people that Charles Oliveira beat. Just because Islam on one night beats him, I don't know that Islam could beat all the guys Charles has beaten. And that's what a P4P list is. It's about like your overall skills, your overall ability, your overall performance. So until Islam beats more than 2 guys in the top 10, I still think Oliveira should be above him.
So you know what? I think you're right. I think it makes complete sense. I also think I agree with you about John Jones. This would be like seeing someone like Conor McGregor still on the list. But you know what? Is there what I would find interesting? Do they cut this list off at 10, or does it go?
Oh, no. It still goes. Sorry, I only did that because for the screen. So after John Jones, you get Jiri Prochazka, Dustin Poirier, Jamal Hill, Robert Whittaker, Max Holloway. I mean, Jamal Hill, okay, he's there because he's champ. I don't think anyone was saying he's pound for pound greatest ever. Robert Whittaker, fine, I agree. Max Holloway, yep, he should be there. Dustin Poirier, yeah, I'm good with him being there. Jiri, yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't know. Gaethje should be up there. I know he loses a lot, but fuck, that guy's a crazy animal and puts on amazing fights.
See, but that's part of it. I don't agree with him, though I love watching him fight, right?
Yeah. Because he loses too much?
Yes, right? And that's where, like, you should not be on the list. If they had, like, the men's biggest brawler top rank list, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, fine. So then you're not going to agree when I try to put Bobby Green on the list?
No.
I don't know. This whole list is so stupid and made up. But, people were going crazy online about this too. Like, really mad that Islam wasn't number 1 and blah, blah, blah. And Islam's mad. I mean, it's all a bunch of nonsense. But why don't we transition into the IV thing?
Sure.
Because you brought that up.
Yes.
So, of course, there's now the controversy over the IV usage or supposed IV usage. And I'll put a photo up here. There's some marks on Islam's arm, which only get highlighted after Dan Hooker puts on Twitter, essentially, that Islam was cheating, that he was using IVs, and he knows he was using IVs.
Yes.
Zero proof.
How does he know? Wait, hold on one second.
Nobody says anything. Nope. Dan Hooker never explains how he knows this, why he knows this. He doesn't offer up any proof. It's been days now, as of our recording of this. It's been days.
See, I don't know how legit this is, but someone, I may have,
Breaking news.
There's so much fake news out there, so this could be completely fake.
Yeah.
But someone made it sound like maybe Dan Hooker, he has a wife or a girlfriend that's a nurse, and that I guess she's friends with the nurse that supposedly did this for Islam. I don't know. That's one of the rumors I heard.
Okay, but then you would say that. You would say, I know the nurse, blah, blah, blah. Like,
you want to hear another theory I heard?
Yeah.
This one's interesting when we talk about all the UFC conspiracies.
Yeah.
Some have said that Dana White, this is a rumor, told Dan Hooker to bring this up, and that they picked Hooker on purpose because he's not seen as like really usually the rock the boat or too controversial of a character. And that's one of the things I read online, that like Dana doesn't want and if anything, this sets up the rematch, right?
Okay. Oh, jeez. There can be no rematch. I don't want to see a rematch.
All right, so I kind of agree with you, but at the same time I don't.
Okay, hold on. Let's stick with the IV and then we'll get to the rematch.
The IV thing. As we know, IVs are banned for a few different reasons, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say he was using it for hydration reasons.
Yeah.
Clearly, we're talking about pound for pound. He's a pretty big guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the rumor was Paulo Acosta with the secret juice. That all started because I think he was using an IV to rehydrate and maybe fight at a heavier weight, at least from what I read at one point. And that's why they just kept testing him. So I know IVs could be used to put on a lot of weight quickly, as we have seen. It's cheating without cheating, right?
Yeah.
So when you're much smaller, moving up like Volk, and you have a bigger fighter like Islam, if he is using the IV and it is banned, well, that's unfair, right? Like,
Yeah, of course. Well, it's banned. And did you know, just so that people know, did you know that IV is banned at all times for UFC athletes? I thought it was only banned in terms of rehydrating. But if you're in fight camp, you're not allowed to get an IV, even at any random period in time.
yeah, and you know
I didn't
what?
know that.
You need there was one fighter in particular I was reading about who
Unless
got,
you have a medical.
yes, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's very hard to come by, right? And I'm sure that's not what Islam had, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
the other advantage, the other thing about it, I feel like this has changed a lot, but I know they were able to put in IV bags some type of, I think it was some type of masking agent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Supposedly they check for steroids and stuff, and using the IV, they could put something in that makes things seem as if they come from more natural,
Okay.
plant-based
Yeah.
instead of being chemically based. And I remember this was something I think I learned about maybe Cyborg back in the day, something tied to this.
How
But
dare
like,
you?
basically, you can take a crap load of steroids, I think, and by using the IV, it kind of flushes it and makes it where you won't test.
Yeah. Yep.
And also, I was telling you earlier, supposedly it could lead to an increase of blood pressure. If you get hit in that spot, it could lead to complications. But I think most fighters would rather take a risk and get that IV and be more hydrated
Yeah.
if they could. Meaning, like, there was a point in time where UFC fighters were allowed to do this.
Yeah.
And, like, remember Johnny Hendricks?
Yeah.
I think one of the things I read, it could have been maybe hormonally based, but I also read like one of his biggest factors was he would cut so much weight and he would use the IV. And then
Right.
when he couldn't use the IV, it was like the end of,
That Johnny Hendricks era.
yes.
So the thing is too, and it's funny because again, if you're watching on video, when you're making mention of IV, you keep pointing to like your under your elbow, like in the crook of your elbow, right? The thing is that for IVs, a lot of IVs normally go through your hand, like through the top of your hand. Like if you're in the hospital and stuff like that, an IV normally goes in your hand, not in your elbow here. And actually, when the conspiracy came out and they were showing this photo around, showing like where it looks like track marks on Islam's inside of his elbow, and people are like, "Oh, there, you can see the needle marks. He was using an IV." My first instinct was to go research where you get IV done. I didn't know that you could get an IV done there. I mean, I guess you can get it in any vein really, but it's normally predominantly done at the top of the hand. When he had the marks there, though, I was like, okay, but this is where they would be taking blood from him for blood tests. And so, sure enough, the excuse given by Islam's team is like, hey, look, he was giving blood, and that's where they were taking blood from him, which that makes sense. That is where you would take it. So for those that are saying, well, what about the track marks? Those aren't fake photos. No, nobody's saying it's fake photos, but there's a lot of reasons why he might have been having blood taken pre-fight, maybe a few months pre-fight, whatever. And then like I donate blood. That mark can be there for like a good week at least. You know, and if you keep having it done, I'm sure that mark kind of sticks around.
See, but I agree. I do agree. But I'm gonna just say a few things that make me wonder. One thing is, I know I'm in pretty good shape, and when I get blood drawn or whatever, right, I'm always told like, "Oh my God, you make my job so easy."
Yeah. You have good veins.
He clearly has good veins. So like a lot of times the bruising will come, I think, when the aim isn't so good. But
yes. When the nurse is stupid. Yeah.
Yes, right? So
Yeah.
part of me is like, I don't know, right? Furthermore, I'm going to be honest.
Wait. Hold on. Just so we can clarify that. You're saying that excuse doesn't make sense because why does he have bad nurses doing
it? Or meaning like, yes, would it be it's either was a bad nurse, meaning he's got a big enough vein where it's going to be this, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But to be fair, I feel like even one time I had some bruising, but I'm right in, whatever. Going further, where was it? I'm sorry. I've gone in, so being a fighter,
Yeah.
Thank God I don't fight for an organization that like this is part of their policy at the moment, might be in the future. But I got invited to like a fitness fest a few months back, and there were all these different like exhibits and stuff. So there was an IV station, and I remember they were like, "Yeah, we'll give you an IV for free." So I tried it out, and it was like I think electrolytes, vitamin C, something to help like clear your liver, right? And guess what? Right here, that's where they put it.
Oh, okay.
Right? And most of the places that I see, I actually have a cousin who started business in Vegas, Dr. Refresh. If you guys want to look it up.
Nice.
But basically, he does that treatment for people, whether it's at home or in his like location. But I think all of it in that way is done through here. So I was reading up. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, if he wanted to hide it, there's so many spots that you could have put it in." Da 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 da. And you're right. I know that in the hospital, my dad had the IV put in here.
Yeah, in your hand.
So that's where, here's the truth. I like that his team came out with a statement.
Yeah.
Because if they remained silent, it would have made me question things more.
Yeah.
I think their statement makes enough sense, yet this is where I'm going to take it. From what I read, you can test to see if someone used an IV, because I believe something from the plastic of the bag turns up in your bloodstream. Why are they not doing this test right now, if that's the case?
Well, maybe they are. And then again, does USADA go out and test just because Dan Hooker makes a fucking allegation? Like, USADA's like, look, we got other things to do. We're hunting down Dagestanis in the middle of the mountains. We got to go find John Jones under a ring.
Yes, but that's where I call BS almost on it all. Because it's almost like, all right, if you guys are serious about all this wanting to be banned, shouldn't part of your protocol be testing for IV bags a day or two?
But I'm sure they are, though. That's the thing. I'm sure they are. And it's not like USADA has to answer to Dan Hooker. Like, that's the other problem. USADA only has to say if something happened.
See, but no one else, though? Like, this is the vibe I catch. Let's say there's like 10 fighters on an event, and there'll be more.
Yeah.
I don't think half of them get tested that day.
Sure.
I think literally they don't spend, like, it's just certain people. So,
but I think a lot of the champions get tested, if I'm not mistaken. And we can ask our next fighters that come on from UFC and clarify that. But I'm pretty positive that the champions or the main events always get tested. And I think that might be a thing. Okay, while you take that call, I'm going to do some random speech here. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. You take that call. So what I want to say to our fans, viewers, and listeners, thanks for following us. Thanks for watching the podcast. As always, I know we've got so many new viewers and we appreciate it. Again, as Braydbunch said at the beginning of the podcast, please follow, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and go find us on Instagram as well and give us a follow there. The more we grow, then the better guests we can get, the more guests we can get. So keep doing that for us. Next week on the podcast, I don't know who the guest is. We've got someone kind of lined up. We're going to see, maybe our guest this week might come on next week. I don't know. We will see what happens with that. But I did want to give a shout out to former guest of the podcast, Dale Brown, because look what he sent me, Braydbunch. The book.
That's awesome.
The Detroit Urban Survival Chronicles book that he talked about. He sent me a copy after the podcast. So thank you so much to Dale. I'm going to read this bad boy, and then I'm going to do a book review on it. It looks very, very cool. On the back, DJ Khaled has a quote. Snoop Dogg has a quote. Joaquin Buckley, of course, MMA fighter, has a quote. So this looks pretty cool, man. And I'm going to check this out. So again, Dale, thank you so much. I'm still getting a lot of hate messages about our podcast with Dale. But I love the dude, and I can't wait to read this book. And then I will be able to tell people what this is all about. And last thing is the podcast network that we're on, Rageworks Network at rageworksnetwork.com. Go check them out for podcasts similar to ours and podcasts that are nothing like ours, ones that talk about like all sorts of different topics. Go check them out at rageworksnetwork.com. And all right, so Braydbunch, let's continue. Where were we at? So I don't know, the IV thing. Dan Hooker is like, prove me wrong. How about you, idiot? How about you prove us that you have any proof of this, that you have anything? Give us a name, give us something, a picture. Like, dude's got nothing. And it's kind of stupid that, like, 3 days out or whatever, there's still no proof. And you just besmirch this guy's name. Like, you just make this guy's name and his legacy and his win questionable for no reason.
I get it. But you know what, though?
Stupid.
A part of me is wondering if, like, maybe I'm going to go back.
There has to be something.
Was it Bobby Green who was accusing him?
Makhachev?
Yes.
So Bobby Green did the thing where he said, hey, look, I fought a lot of dudes before. That dude is abnormally strong. And he essentially made the allegation that, like, I'm pretty sure this guy, coming from where he does, blah, 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 they run a lot of shit when they were young kids and growing up and becoming athletes. Like, they run a whole bunch of shit. Maybe he's not now. But his allegation was that this guy's grown up using something.
Well, you know what's interesting? If you can give me a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the name of the drug.
Okay. And we're all going to buy it on Amazon and then see who gets the most jacked.
Well,
fans, take part.
All right. So this
competition.
is interesting. I literally just typed in Maria Sharapova because I know she tested positive for this drug. It derailed her career. But what's really interesting is 4 days ago, this is the headline from Mira.com. Islam Makhachev tested positive for same banned substance as Maria Sharapova. And if you were to read into this, right, he was supposed to fight Drew Dober on an April 16th.
Oh, sorry. Okay. You're reading an article from long ago.
Yes, right?
Okay, yeah.
4 days ago, but they're bringing up what happened long ago.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
So he actually tested positive for something called meldonium, right?
Yeah, beautiful vacation spot, by the way.
Yeah. You know what? I actually wondered if it came from whatever.
Moldova? Yeah, okay.
When they're naming these drugs and stuff, where do they come up with? But basically, prior to January 2016, come here, bro. UFC allowed their fighters to take this. So something I want people to realize is, even if people are not testing positive, they're pumped full of stuff that premier athletes, Olympians are all taking, that if they're not banned at the moment, there's a good chance a lot of it will be in the future, right?
Yeah, sure.
And like, it's usually given for people to combat diabetes, magnesium, but what it does is it helps your heart pump blood better. I actually read, I think it helps you burn glucose better.
Shit, I need some of this.
And basically, I heard it was almost like a poor man's EPO.
Hey, I'm a poor man and I need EPO, so hook it up.
Furthermore, what was really interesting was when Maria Sharapova tested positive, I can't find the statistic.
Yeah.
But if you saw the number of Olympians.
Yeah.
It was like something like maybe it was majority of them had this in it before it was banned. Meaning, so all the people were watching on TV. So, but going back, he was still taking this after it was banned.
And even as a UFC fighter.
Yes. And then they ended up not penalizing him down the line because they ruled that if you used it from this time period to this time period, we're going to let it slide. So in a way,
interesting,
right? So if he's known to take it, and I hate to say it,
yep.
Russia and that region has some of the biggest historical drug cheats on the planet, right?
You just lost me all my Russian subscribers.
I'm sorry. I love y'all. I've got a lot of Russian blood, believe me.
Both of them unsubscribed, right as you said. Fuck.
But here's the truth. I'm gonna shut up about this, but part of me wonders, with enough when there's smoke, there's fire. It's almost like people talk about Conor McGregor and his new build. I think we all know that Conor is probably enhanced. Yeah. Right. So
and this is like the John Jones controversy. Like when we were going through the P4P list, and I'm like, nope, John Jones out. Like get him out of here. because to me, anybody that has ever been tested positive or whatever, I can't take them 100% at face value anymore, because I'm like, well, now there's a little cloudy bit.
Yep.
So I'm glad you bring this up, because Islam has not been controversy free for this. And so you're right. So what you're saying is like, well, if you've had the mentality to take stuff to enhance yourself before and previously, would you do other stuff?
Yes.
And so it's in the realm of possibility, but I'm just saying, fuck you, Dan Hooker. Give me something. Otherwise, I really don't like you just trashing people like this. This is why Angela Hill has banned me, or, blocked me on Instagram, because I called her out for calling out Tisha Torres with no proof, right? When she just in the middle of a press conference goes, well, Tisha Torres is using drugs, blah, blah. And Tisha Torres is like, what the fuck? Like, I've never even been tested positive once. Like, you know? And then when I called out Angela Hill, that block. So like, I'm like, you can't do that shit though. You can't just like say someone's name like that, because that forever becomes like a audio clip, or like, you know what I mean? Like, people will always use that or say that, or it gets into someone's head and then they don't know to check otherwise.
It's true.
So I don't know. That stuff is nonsense. All right. We're coming to the end of this podcast, because I know you got to go soon. So this is all about Islam.
Yeah.
So we both believe that he lost. We both believe that Islam won the fight.
Yes.
So enough of that nonsense. We both believe that he is not P4P number one.
Yes.
Not now. Maybe in the future. Maybe once he beats another, several lightweights, true lightweights, maybe he'll be in that conversation. We think maybe he took the IV. I feel like you're more on the maybe yes, and I'm more on the maybe no. Yeah. But yeah, sure, there's something. We'll see where that goes. And then last thing, let's just solidify. I say no rematch, because I want Volkanovski to go fight Yair. There's an honest contender there. And then Islam, you've got lots of people to fight at lightweight. I don't need to see these guys keep fighting. Like,
you know what? I'm really curious what's going to happen, because in the post-fight speech, Volk made it sound like he had no interest in a rematch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then guess what? There he is.
Instagram.
Fight. And you know what? I'm surprised my hand wasn't raised. And that's where I go back to, is this all a constructed Dana White storyline? Where
you can't hold up two divisions.
See, but you're right. I agree. So part of me is wondering, will they squeeze in like another fight for each of them, and then maybe later on in the year or early next year, have another rematch, whether or not they both still have the belts even. But if they don't have the belts, I don't think it's nearly as cool of a story.
No, there's no fight there if neither of them have their belt, or if they're not competing for a belt. It has to be Islam has to have the belt. It's like, even if Volk still has his belt and he goes up, there's no point in that.
Yes. And
so
tie up divisions, unless it's once again Volk maybe dropping down, or he's coming up, right? Then I'm all for it. But you're right. I would rather see them defend the belt, not hold on to them, not hold up other fighters. Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a quicker podcast, especially after I edit out your fire alarm drill, which people won't know what we're talking about, but there was a fire alarm that happened. So I've hopefully edited that out and you won't notice it in the podcast. Okay. So we've talked about, everything Islam. We got through all that issue. So now next week we can go on with other things. I will tell you, we will talk about the Jessica Andrade OnlyFans story that we said we were going to talk about this week, but we didn't get a chance to. We'll talk about the Jessica Andrade thing next week as well. I do have a follow-up when Jenna Bishop was talking about her contracts. I'm just going to say this really quickly. Jenna Bishop said on the podcast last week, which is a wicked podcast, so go watch that one. She said that her Bellator contract was for 2 years, 6 fights. And she said that if she doesn't complete her 6 fights, it ends at 2 years. And I said, do they have to guarantee you a certain number of fights? She goes, no, they don't guarantee me any fights. So that means she signed a contract for up to 6 fights, for 6 fights within 2 years. And if it ends at 2 years, she just goes off, right?
Yeah.
I said to her, oh, because UFC contracts have to offer you 3 fights. And she goes, no. Well, she messaged me right after the podcast, or I think it was maybe the next day. And she goes, shoot, you're right. So she must have talked to her UFC buddies, who then confirmed yes, the UFC contracts have to offer you, and she said it was 3 as well, same as me, I think. So they guarantee to offer you fights. And that's why UFC contracts don't have an end date. They just have a total number of fights. And you have to accept the fights to then get out of your contract. That's why Ngannou was stuck. Nate Diaz was stuck. GSP was stuck, right? Because you have so many fights left on your contract. You got to fight them out. But the UFC guarantees to offer you those fights.
Interesting.
I reached out to a Bellator guy that I know. And I said, hey, can I just check with you? Does your contract have an end date? Like, is it for a specific amount of time? He said yes.
Interesting.
So amongst the people that I know, professional fighters at the UFC and Bellator, it seems like that may be a big difference between contracts. So that's interesting. And we should keep that in mind when we interview people in the future. And we should just always ask that to see if we can figure that out.
You know what? You got me wondering too. Yeah, no, we should ask them all about this. You got me. So here's my question. Does this mean I'm stupid? If you don't have the fights, they offer them to you, you're stuck until you have the fights?
Yeah.
Or is there part of it where they're like, hey, we have offered you 3 fights at least every year. It's been 4 years. We can now break this contract and let you go.
No. Because why would the UFC doesn't care? Because that means in 4 years, you're still fighting for 4-year-old money.
That's true.
So the UFC doesn't care. We'll keep you forever on that contract. And you can't go fight anywhere else.
Interesting.
That's why some people and unfortunately, if you get a bad injury or blah, 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 and it takes you out of the game for a while, when you come back, you're still fighting on that old contract. So but if you are healthy and you are, competing at a regular interval, you can run through those contracts quick. Like when you see Patty fighting all the time, our friend Lupi Godinez, when she fought 3 times in a month, she's burning through that contract, you know what I mean? And then the next contract gets bigger and the next contract gets bigger. So that's kind of what you want to do. And it helps with your sponsorship dollars with Venom too, right? Because the more fights you have, the more your Venom payout is.
Interesting.
Anyway, so I wanted to tie up that loose end for anybody that's listened this long on the podcast. There you go. Braydbunch. One more podcast before I go on vacation, and we'll have a couple of we'll film a couple in advance just with some fight predictions to fill time. But anything you want to say before we go?
You know what? One thing I'll say is I think Albert Ochoa is fighting for that title. I think
this weekend. Yeah.
So I'm hoping he wins. He's a friend of the podcast. He's also from the celebrity boxing circle. But otherwise, the last thing I will say, I'm going to keep my lips sealed for now, but I'm really excited. I know you know this, Timmy. There's a pro organization that might be offering me some fights this year. And they want me to find the best opponent. So part of me actually has been debating challenging Lady Farrell, a.k.a. Alana McLaughlin, who is already a pro trans fighter.
Mm-hmm.
The cis girl last year, but part of me was like, if I'm going to have the biggest stage and the best competition, maybe I take on Alana, but we could talk about that more in the future. That's it. And lastly, I hope some of you start buying tickets for March 11th in Atlantic City. I'm taking on Layla James for the trans title belt, OCB. And I think I'm going to win big. I think I'm going to look much better than I did in my last match. I've been putting the work in. So I hope some of you check out the pay-per-view. I wish Timmy could make it to the US for that fight, but
very soon I can make it. I guarantee. So not this fight, but it's like almost guarantee the next fight you have, I will be there.
All right. And
hopefully I will be in your corner.
I would love that. And one of my dreams is actually to head to Canada soon too. So maybe you can help me find some match in Canada.
Yes, we will do that. We will get that done. Hit up Fight League Atlantic. I know I've told you about them before, but hit up my friend Derek at Fight League Atlantic. That dude puts on great shows.
All right.
Guarantee he will get you on a show. Just call him up. All right, guys, that's it for the podcast. Let's talk next week with some sort of guest, hopefully. Apologize for the confusion this week, but next week we will get back on track. And Braydbunch, thank you so much and have a wonderful week. Train hard for that fight. God damn it.